Welcome everyone to another Parallax Thought Leadership webinar. Today's topic is revenue growth is broken, let's fix it. The unique part about this webinar is you don't actually have to apply any of the concepts you learned from Tim today. You came here today with broken revenue growth. When you leave, revenue growth is fixed. It's like magic.
Yeah.
My name is Brett Swain, and I lead the solutions consulting team here at Parallax. Our esteemed guest is Tim Kilroy. If you don't know about Tim, Tim started his career as an English teacher, but figured out he doesn't like kids and switched to marketing in 1997. Tim really knows this stuff. He's been doing this for a long time. So he has 25 years of experience in performance marketing, e-commerce, and lead generation. He has founded, scaled, and sold multiple digital agencies, and several grew into seven-figure businesses. He's advised 300 plus agencies from 250K to 100 million a year clients, helping solve scaling challenges and founder overwhelm. Tim is a frequent guest, much like today, at agency thought leadership events and podcasts. And one of my favorite bits from Tim's website about revenue growth, Tim believes that revenue growth is a math problem wrapped in a human problem, wrapped in an identity crisis. So you're going to have to give us some more context on that one later, Tim. But anything
Okay.
you want to add to that intro, Tim?
No, so actually, I do like kids. I have five of them. I didn't like being a teacher because I didn't like other
Oh,
teachers. They were
so
too mature.
yeah, not as fun as the kids, I guess. Now that we've like really gotten wrapped up the serious business stuff, we're gonna jump into the fun. All right, so the topic for today, as we mentioned, is revenue growth is broken. Let's fix it. So this is the parallax perspective of revenue growth. So the way we see revenue growth is it's like filling up a bucket with water. And the more water in the bucket, the faster your revenue growth is growing. And there's two parts of this equation in terms of how we can fill up that bucket super fast. The first is we need to pour water into the top of the bucket. And in our world, that's represented by winning new customers, making new sales. And I think what we're hearing from agency leaders, from folks that are focused on growth with the macroeconomic challenges, with the introduction of AI, it feels like there's more competitors and fewer opportunities. It feels like they're often caught in a race to the bottom pricing battle. It feels like customers are doing more with AI in-house, and so it's tougher to keep and win new business with customers that feel like they can do a lot of it on their own. And then their customers are also expecting faster and cheaper services because that's what they've been told by the media that AI is going to provide. So we got to make sure we're pouring water into the bucket, but then we also got to make sure that once we have water in the bucket, it's not spilling out through these holes in the bucket. And the way you keep water in the bucket is by having strong operations. And some of the operational challenges that we've heard from customers is that revenue leakage and lower project margins are something that their business is struggling with. They often feel like they don't have the data to make hiring decisions, and so those hiring decisions can feel like they're doing that based on gut. They're missing utilization targets because maybe they don't have the controls to manage that more efficiently, and they're hearing from their team that they're overworked and exhausted. So, what we want to hear from you all, we have a quick little activity, and we'd love for you all to participate, is to understand which challenges are resonating with you the most. And so the idea is to pick two of these. You can scan the QR code in the top left with your phone and participate, or you can join at slido.com and pump in that number. And the cool part about this poll is that while Tim has created content, he's going to completely redo it based on what the top priorities are of this group.
Totally. This is Tim GPT. I'm just making this up.
All right, so we got some ops challenges with missing utilization targets. Sounds like from a sales perspective, there's more competitors and fewer opportunities. If you're looking at this list and nothing's really resonating, throw in the challenges that you are experiencing into the chat. It looks like we're getting quite a bit of participation, so maybe that's a minority of folks, but would love to hear some other challenges that are top of mind related to revenue growth in the chat. Tim, any good jokes while we wait? Any other good dad?
I pulled out one for I have 16-year-old twins. I pulled one out as we were driving by a cemetery the other day. Like, why is there a fence around it? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, because everybody's dying to get in there.
I'm glad this is recorded because that's another one I'm going to put in my back pocket.
Oh yeah, man. That is a classic.
All right, so just checking out the results. We got more competitors, fewer opportunities. It sounds like some folks are dealing with revenue leakage and lower project margins. To some businesses are struggling with missing utilization targets. Anything here that especially sticks out to you, Tim?
These look like very indicative of everything that I'm seeing in the market. And I can't promise to fix all of them magically, but we're going to touch on everything here in a way that gives you at least a different perspective on it. Because
That sounds
this is that you guys are exactly representative of the industry as a whole.
all right. That feels like a perfect transition into your segment of this, Tim.
All right. So revenue growth is broken. What's the fix? Now, listen, like revenue growth isn't really broken, but things are not working like they used to. And we can talk about a lot of macro reasons. There are a lot of macro reasons. Economic uncertainty. That is huge. Political divisions, also huge because that makes people feel uncomfortable. And when people feel uncomfortable, they are less optimistic about the future. Business concerns, rising prices, lower consumer economic activity, margins, generally speaking, are getting a little bit squeezed across the board. And even places where there are tons of margin, those businesses are under significant pressure to maintain margins. So there is less money to do stuff like pay your agency fees because you might get more, like your instinct might be there's more bang for your buck in spending more on media, but like things really are different. It's not your imagination. There is more competition because the pandemic was, to tell you the truth, honestly, from like 2012 onward, starting an agency was really easy. It was pretty easy to grow. And we've got this serious hiccup in our confidence in the future right now. So things are, in fact, different. And they really are not working the way that they used to. All right. And here's the deal. It's because the flywheel is broken. Growth no longer seems inevitable. For a long time, the only thing that mattered to clients was top line revenue growth. That no longer seems like it is absolutely for sure going to happen. And also for those of you that work with businesses that get funded, investment capital outside of AI frontier models has declined dramatically across most business to consumer and most B2B sectors. It just doesn't seem like the future is incredibly bright. And also clients can't see into the future as well as they used to. And because there have been so many broken promises that the process sale, which has been the harbinger or has been the hallmark of really good agencies who've said, we understand what your problem is. This is our process to fix it. And the fix is inevitable. People no longer feel like your process is foolproof because so much control has been taken away from agencies and put into advertising platforms that it's really, really, really difficult to think, yeah, my agency absolutely has got their finger on the pulse of this. That does not seem believable anymore. Also, there's 53 bazillion channels now. And it's not just Meta, and it's not just Google. It's CTV, it's Pinterest, it's Snap, it's TikTok. It's all of these things that are demanding budget and expertise, and the average agency process does not encompass all of them. And the last thing here is that clients will no longer go to bat for you, especially at senior levels. And if you're someone who's sort of to be fundamentally clear, clients will not go to bat for you because they do not want to expend their political capital on you, and they want to avoid being fired. So it's easier to blame you for business failures than it is to take responsibility themselves. That's not a smash against your clients, because some individual clients are terrific in that regard. But to tell you the truth, this is a much bigger deal now than it used to be, because everybody is hanging on by a thread. Unless you have a significant ownership stake in the business, everybody else in the business is expendable, and they'd much rather you be expendable than them. All right, so here's like the real shitty truth. Agencies are built around action and deliverables. You've probably given proposals like this where the proposal is actually just a list of all the stuff you're going to do. It's like 300 lines long, and it's just, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the other thing. And that is how you build your value, because at our core, we're really thinking like time and materials, and especially when we have the granular data like parallax, we are thinking that, we have to maximize capacity. And so we're going to cram as much action into few hours as possible and we're going to create the most deliverables. Well, when things get tough, deliverables don't move the needle. And platforms and AI really have crushed the value of knowing how to do stuff. To tell you the truth, that information around how to do stuff, how to run a Facebook campaign, how to set up your meta pixels, how to do retargeting, all of that stuff. The information has been overwhelmingly available, but you had to go looking for it and you had to ingest it. Now AI, really, you just ask a question and blam, it will give you a reasonably good facsimile of actual experience. So knowing how to do stuff, which is how digital agencies explicitly have really made their business, that's no longer as valuable as it once was. And finally, even though this is not a reality yet, the perception is that AI will make everything really easy to do. Now, even though that's not true, the perception is that the value of a great video, the value of producing a great video is going to zero because AI will make it easy, or great copy, or really great campaign structure, or really great bidding adjustments, or great analysis. The assumption is AI will do all of that stuff, so it is not worth all that much tomorrow. Even though it's still hard today, clients have already priced in the AI benefit to them. So people are less likely to pay what you need them to pay in order for it to make it worth your while to actually do the stuff that you're promising. So what's the fix? Or what the fuck is going on, honestly? But what's the fix is we need to really start thinking about everything differently, because everything is different. So we need to relate differently, sell differently, create differently, and love differently. Now, you don't really often hear about people talking about love, but if you are not in love with your clients and in love with their business, you're not in love with your own business, honestly. But we'll get to that later. All right, so relate difference. I know that all of you are really focused on, you want to get new clients tomorrow, or maybe even later today. And there are 73 million people on the internet who are telling you, like, you set up the call this way, you say that thing, and clients will close. That, first of all, that was all bullshit and was never really true. But thinking that way is killer. So if you were thinking that closes happen quickly, wash out your brain right now. Take soap to scrub all those wrinkles out of the top of your brain, because the one call close was never actually real, and now it is dead. Don't do not try to close quickly, because pressure is not your friend. Because the thing that creates a great client, prospect, and agency relationship is a clear definition of the problem. And that just takes time. We need to relate to our clients differently by investing more in the discovery process. And that is really contrary, and that actually runs very contrary to the idea that our process will fix your business problems. That may be true, but in fact, you have to be super duper sure that you understand the business problem in order to solve it. And then also, you want this relationship to be good enough that you want to meet the parents. Now, there are some businesses where there's a solo decision maker, and that's cool. But if you were dealing with a buying committee, so if you were working with anybody that has a marketing department, or someone who's a COO, or somebody who's not where the CEO is not making all the decisions, like, you have got to create the time and the structure to meet all those people so that you can make sure that collaboratively you are a good fit together. So this is a concept that I want you to all really reflect on. And this is a completely made up metric that I created, that there is no way to measure it, but you know it. Like, you've got to maximize your return on understanding. And all of that work in understanding the client goals, their needs, their obstacles, their accelerators, their personality, what's actually really important to them, both on a company basis and on a personal basis. And not personal basis like, my family is very important to me, but personal basis like it's not out of bounds to understand how the people that you deal with every day are compensated, so that you can make sure that you're hitting the goals that get them their maximum compensation. But and that's a very specific example, but understanding all of the variables that go into your client's business is super, super, super important. And so I want you to take more time and maybe slow down your sales process so that you're spending more time listening to your clients or your prospects before they become clients, so that you truly understand their problem and you don't settle for simple descriptions of problems like, we need to increase our return on ad spend. Well, yeah, great. That's not actually something that we really have control over. What we really need to understand are, what are the business objectives that are driving that desire to increase return on ad spend. It could be a matter of sales velocity. It could be a matter of contribution margin on transactional basis. It could be, a matter of cash flow. Like, there's all sorts of issues that could result in the idea that we need to maximize our return on ad spend. But the return on ad spend is not a goal unto itself. It's a measurement of something else. And you need to understand the variables that go into that. And that is super, super, so freaking important, because if you are not on the same page, it doesn't matter what your results are if they're not having the right outcome. And that's a perfect transition into how we need to sell differently. As I said before, for a long time, for a decade plus, the easiest way to sell agency services was this. You have a problem. Cool. We have a solution. It's this process. It's purpose built to solve that problem. Therefore, if you engage with us and we go through our process, your success is inevitable. Success is no longer inevitable. Growth is not inevitable. Lots and lots of businesses are just hoping that things don't get worse. So we can't sell the magic machine that creates more money. But going back to outcomes, going back to what we were just talking about, that we really have to understand things. Let me tell you about a story. I used to be the CMO of this company called Karmaloop. At the time, we were about a $200 million street and skatewear retailer. Like great, very great company, really focused on clients, on customers, and they're really good at what they did. I came in as CMO, and the first thing that I did was like, shit, we gotta like maximize return on ad spend. So we went crazy, and we only pumped money into the campaigns that were performing well, and we increased, we almost doubled return on ad spend. It was amazing. And at month end, after my first month, the CFO came in to my office, and he was an old guy. He actually used to wear these shirt that said "Old Guys Rule," and he was like in his mid 60s. And he came in with a bunch of printed out spreadsheets and threw them at me. And he said, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know, doubling return on ad spend, Rob. Like, what the hell?" He's like, "Yeah, you're only selling shit that's on sale. Like, we're losing money on this. That doesn't matter. Return on ad spend doesn't matter on a negative margin product." Oh, so I had great results, but a terrible outcome. So you really need to understand the outcomes that your clients need, because the results are a computed metric that might be the easiest way to think about the outcomes, but are not accurate. So you really need to understand what the outcomes needed are and not sell on your results. You need to sell on your understanding of those outcomes. And it also used to be really simple to sell. Somebody would tell you what their problem is, and you'd say something smart like, what do you think the cost of inaction is there? Like, if you don't change anything, like how much are you leaving on the table? And somebody tell you, oh, like that's a 50,000, like we're leaving 50 grand a month on the table. Well, great. Now you know that you're solving a $600,000 a year problem, and that's worth at least 60 grand. Cool. That's my price. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be cool, right? That doesn't work anymore, because nobody knows how much they're leaving on the table, because as we talked about before, you can't see into the future. So you need to tell stories about how you solved other problems that are similar to the ones that they have. And so that a story that shows that you understand a problem and understand the mechanisms on how to fix it is way better than calculating better return on ad spend. So everything has changed. It's not process and math driven anymore. It's understanding and emotion driven, which is weird, because you'd think that when margins are being crushed and risk is an all-time high, people would want to be more empiric. But people don't trust the numbers. They trust trust. They trust how much they believe you. And the way that they can believe you the best is to understand what they really need. And that idea of understanding what they really need creates intimacy. And if you have intimacy with your prospect and they can be honest with you and you can be honest with them, that creates such a better client relationship, because that creates an elastic nature to your relationship. If you were selling on a metric, we're going to increase your return on ad spend. Cool. The first month you don't do that, you just broke the trust. Or if you happen to increase return on ad spend for 3 months in a row, and the fourth month it's the same, they're like, why is that? But if you understand the problem more deeply, and you can say like, yeah, we didn't increase return on ad spend, but we generated more new customers, or we increased sales of particular categories, or whatever the case may be, you might not have achieved your stated metric goal, but by understanding the things that go into that metric, you've created an elasticity that allows for more trust. And so that you, if there is a client of mine just earlier this week, they just started with the client. They're 4 months into the relationship. They had 3 terrific months and 1 month that was fine. The client fired them because it wasn't the same as the previous 3 months, because there was no chance to build the relationship and create the elasticity to earn that trust, or to actually to have your clients exercise that trust, because as we spoke about before, nobody's going to bat for you anymore because everything's hanging on by a thread. We need to create differently. So list of deliverables, yeah, they exist, but deliverables are not something that your clients value. You can, an audit, for instance, change these things on your site. Cool. Adjust these things. Like, nobody cares about the deliverable. What they really care about is the insight that creates shared action. So they hire you not because of the fact that you know how to push all the buttons inside of WordPress, or that you know how to construct a great campaign inside of Google, or if you know how Klaviyo works. Like, that no longer is the reason to get hired. What happens what happens is when you are able to share more understanding with people, that's the deliverable. The deliverable is you consolidating and synthesizing all the information into something that your client now feels like they are better armed to run their business with. And that is so much more important than the awesome layout of your CRO checklist. Also, creating is different now because thinking about charging for things based on how long they take. I mean, it has been antiquated for a really long time. And even though you get terrific insights around running your own business by tracking that, your clients don't care. They don't care that something is hard. They don't care that something is easy. And so what I want you to be thinking about in terms of thinking about times and materials is that there is a faster way to do something. There's a way that is easier for you to do it. Is it through AI? I don't know. Is it through pattern recognition? Is it through better data analysis? Is it through by building core internal templates that organize the thinking for you? There's a lot more. There's so many ways to become more efficient. And on the delivery side of things, you need to be laser focused on your efficiency, because, quite honestly, the time it takes you to do something, nobody cares.
Hey, Tim, we got a question in the Q&A.
Yes, absolutely.
So the question is, when you think about selling customer outcomes versus selling process, should we always assume the ultimate outcome the customer is targeting is revenue growth?
No, you
Or are
have
there
to,
other
you have to,
outcomes more
yeah, there's
specific?
there's all sorts of outcomes. So that's why you need to slow down your discovery process so that you know what the
Yeah.
outcome is. And so some of the things that some like you need to, like, when you're doing discovery or an intro call, the what you are trying to get out of that original call is information about the client. Like, in a discovery call, you and your agency are the least important people there. And so revenue, like, revenue is a lagging indicator. Like, revenue is an historic fact. You cannot learn anything from a revenue result, because a revenue result is the outcome of a bunch of processes and a bunch of variables. So when someone says, yeah, we want to grow our sales, you have to ask clarifying questions around that. Are we looking to sell more to existing customers, or are we focused on new customers? Is our metric gross profitability, or are we looking at transactional profitability? And also, if the idea is revenue growth, okay, cool. What is that target revenue growth? And, what happens if you miss it? What happens if you go past it? So get your clients to unpack their packaging, right? Because when someone says like, yeah, we really need to get a better return on ad spend, or we need to generate more revenue, like, cool. Like that's shorthand for something else. Often when people say we want to increase revenue, it's because they don't know what else to say. And of course, they want to increase revenue, but what they're really telling you was either the last people we worked with weren't able to do that, or we've tried to do it in-house and we don't have all the right tools, or we don't have the right people or the right thinking or whatever. And so your job then is to say, okay, you want more revenue. Why didn't it happen? Like first of all, why now? Why didn't it already happen? What do you know that's in the way? And so you have to get them to expose all the problems, because almost certainly when they say we want more revenue, like you can't fix revenue, because revenue is the thing that happens after you do the stuff that you do. So you can only fix the things that you work on. And so you need to understand how the thing that you work on connects to the goal that they have told you. And most often it's not a clear, simple line. It's almost always more complicated than whatever metric they tell you that they're chasing. Because in order to agree that you're going to chase that metric, you have to know why they're chasing it. What happens if you don't hit it? What happens if you do hit it? What happens if you like go screaming past it? And what impact does hitting that metric make? Does hitting that metric mean that they get to stay in business, or does hitting that metric mean that the CEO gets to buy a bigger boat? Understanding those kinds of motivations is really, really important. And go ahead and be impertinent when you're asking these questions, because like the sales process, like you're just trying to figure out if you guys fit together and you can do what they need. And so most people, when they're, if you're dating someone and you're thinking about getting really serious with them, you kind of want to know that you're on the same page about stuff like where you're going to live. Are you going to have kids? Do you like dogs or cats? Whatever. And so think about the sales process as getting those things out of the way with your clients, so you can know what's important to them, you can know what's valuable, and you can actually know what are the variables that go into their decision making, and what are the variables that go into creating the outcome that they're trying to measure. And don't be afraid to push back and say, you know what, optimizing like revenue is an outcome, or revenue is the outcome of past actions. Cool. And we can only look at revenue in the rearview mirror. Like we've got to figure out what the leading metrics are there so we can optimize to that, because we've got to trust that when we hit those leading metrics, that the follow-on metrics are going to make sense. So what do we do there? Hopefully that answered the question to someone, and we can certainly go back to it. But I want to make sure that we've only got a few minutes left here. I want to make sure that we get through all this. So at the end of the day, believe it or not, knowing what the right thing to do is way more valuable than knowing how to do the right thing. Kind of silly, right? But right now, especially in the context that clients believe and the market is hyping that AI will be able to do all this stuff imminently. Thank you, freaking Mark Zuckerberg, and in his stupid Stratechery interview where he says we're just going to connect to your bank account and ask what you want us to accomplish. That's dumb. But that's the paradigm that we're working on. So knowing how to do the stuff is actually so much less valuable than it used to be. Knowing what to do and being able to create the insight that allows action because we can assume and we can predict that execution is going to continue to change and likely get easier. So right now, you need to be selling, we know what to do and how to do it. Yeah, we know that too. But the most important thing is we have a process to know what to do to achieve your goals. And then the last thing, and this is this is very proofy. You have got to love your clients differently. So often what clients, they want experience. Like, have you done this before for someone who looks like me? Maybe, maybe not. Doesn't really matter, because whatever success you may have had or difficulty you may have had is in the past. And the world is fundamentally a different place. Marketing channels are different. The inputs are different. The outputs are different. Things are different. Now, knowing how to decide what to do isn't different, but having specific experience in a particular vertical or in a particular kind of industry isn't as important anymore, because you're now working on the outcomes and not just the mechanical results. And the way that you need to love your clients differently is to help them understand that what did happen before actually isn't terribly informative about what's going to happen next. And imagining the future together is, in fact, the most powerful aphrodisiac there is. So if you and your prospect and your clients, whenever you sit down, can think about how much better the future could be when you're combining your strengths, that's so much more powerful than saying, yeah, we're going to execute this process and this will be the outcome. And something that your clients want, even if they are crotchety and they are curmudgeonly, they want to know that you understand them and that that's a passionate thing for you. Because there's a statistic in Ad Age last year that said the Fortune 500, 79% of Fortune 500 CMOs said that their agencies do not fundamentally understand their business. And like, those are the best like the best and biggest agencies in the whole world, and there's still a disconnect between what the client experiences and what the agency thinks. So you've got to make it crystal super duper clear that knowing what they need it's not a rational act for you, it's a passionate act. The future is more important than the past. Being able to tell them this is what's going to happen. Leading your clients and prospects has to be the way that you show love, because if you are reacting to what they say, they're almost certainly going to be reacting to things that have already happened. And so you need to pull their focus away from the distant past, the near past, and even the present, and get them thinking about next week, next month, next quarter, next year, next decade. Because that is where you are making the agreement about. And you have to be so comfortable in becoming the leader of the relationship, because you and your clients, believe it or not, are peers. Even though they pay you money, like, you're not subservient to them. You are not like someone who's saying like, yes, dear, I'll do that. Let me go do the dishes. Like, nobody's doing that like that. If you're doing that, you're in an abusive relationship with your clients. So like, you have got to take on the leadership position, because that's how you show that you love them. And as we talked about before, that love creates intimacy. Intimacy creates elasticity. All right, where you can find me, and by the way, I don't have anything right after that, so I've got some time for questions past 2 o'clock. You can find me at timkilroy.com. If you'd like my fantastic newsletter, and I love writing it, it comes out twice a week. You can find that at www.agencyinnercircle.com. If you'd like to get a free agency assessment, please go to timkilroy.com, WTF assessment, and please connect with me on LinkedIn. I love talking to you guys because I have nothing better to do because my kids are all old and they don't really want to talk to me anymore. So, and that's my story. Questions, thoughts, ideas, angry rants. They're all welcome. What mindset shift would fix 80% of the sales challenges? That's actually a really great question. Here it is. The thing that will fix the mindset shift is that return on understanding is your most important metric to think about. The better you can understand the problems, and that your job is not to sell anybody on anything. Your job is to understand the prospect's problems and their concerns and effectively be able to say to them, "Oh, yeah, I understand that, and we are a good fix to fix that problem because of these things." Because the way we think, the way we act, the way we smell, whatever, the way we dress, like whatever that is, like your job whenever you're talking to a client is not to ascertain, can I close this client? But it's got to be, can we help this client more effectively than anyone we've ever met? And if you're close to that answer, if you feel like, hell yeah, we can fucking help these people because I get it. Like we understand it. Like we've seen this before. We know what to do. We know what the variables are. We can look at more math. We've got models that we can reflect on. Like, and we understand their pains. Like when you get to that understanding and that's clear to your client, it's almost inevitable that they're going to say, like, when can we start?
And that's like a big theme that we've been seeing recently with thought leaders in the space like you, Tim, is it's selling process. I loved how you phrased this. Like selling process used to work, but it doesn't work anymore. Now it's important to sell outcomes. And what does that mean for a business? It means you got to find the biggest problems that your client base has and understand where you've provided solutions to those problems and how you can do that consistently moving forward. And then when you come to a new customer, you can say exactly what you just said. We've solved this problem for a number of customers in the past. It's produced these financial outcomes. These champions have benefited this way personally. And it's a
Yeah.
much more compelling story than, to your point, selling these are the 5 deliverables we're going to give you. What happens with those? Who knows?
And I think that one of the most crucial things is to go back to the question about revenue. When
Yep.
people, so because I would in my work with agencies, they always say that they want to be like, I want more leads. That's what everyone wants. And that's not what they want. What they want is more profit.
Yeah.
But the shortcut that they took, like leads, because I know if I have more leads, I can sell more things, and then if I sell more things, I have more profit, and it's all going to be great, blah, blah. And as you know from Parallax, like that's not true. Rarely does more top line increase the bottom line, right? Because you build,
Especially if the focus is to increase the top line, right? And not
yeah,
increase the bottom
yeah.
line. Yeah.
But when your clients say we want more revenue, that's not what they want. Like every business is either they're thinking about profit or about efficiency, which is just another way to say profit, or they're thinking about reducing their capital expenditure or their operating expenditures. They're looking for ways to do more with less. And unless they're a publicly traded company, I can guarantee you that every privately owned company in the world would trade zero revenue growth for 50% profit growth. Public companies are different, but private companies, if you don't grow, but you're making twice as much money, nobody cares. Hey, that's fun. So don't trust we want more revenue because that's a lazy shortcut answer that's not exposing the actual thing that they want.
So you mentioned that again, kind of going off that same point, like selling process used to work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work anymore. What's happening in the world and when did that shift? When did it become the case where process, maybe you could get by as a business by having really good process to where you feel like we are now, which is you have to build confidence in your customer that you can deliver specific outcomes.
It started during the pandemic when honestly everybody was starting an agency because it was easy and it wasn't hard to generate a bunch of clients because everybody was overspending. It really started to it really started to become an issue in 2023. Like 2022 was okay for most people. 2023 was a time where growth was really hard to come by and profit was even harder for most marketers. And at that point, people were still selling process. And after 6 months, clients were saying, yeah, this doesn't work like you said it did. And that combined with the evolution and acceleration of AI has just put into this mindset that first of all, anybody who's selling anything cannot be trusted. And AI is going to be able to do it all anyway. So why do I need to pay you for this human work? Now, neither of those conditions are true, right? People who sell things can be trusted, but lots and lots of marketers had very bad experience who were oversold because everybody extrapolated out of the relative, ease of the last decade, including the pandemic.
All right. We got one more. We got another question in the queue. So the question is, how have you seen agencies use AI in the sales process? Is there anything that has worked well or hasn't?
The AI in the sales process, a little overblown. AI SDRs and all that sort of things are making and fully automated cold email and all that kind of stuff. Things are making progress there in terms of quality, but because the bar to entry is zero, everybody can do that. That sort of spray and pray kind of outreach works less well. The place where things have really have changed in the sales process from an AI perspective is this. Number one is being able to use tools to go look at what their ads are and be able to provide your clients with like a real insight about why their ads are working or not working before you talk to them. Doing research about the company, so in real research, not like what do they sell, but in really understanding their market. And the last thing and this is a little bit further into the sales process, but I work with a company that does packet, sort of design for CPG brands and they work a bunch with grocery stores who have their own private label, and they've developed this like AI thing where they go grab a product image from somebody's website and do a sort of like a first pass AI mock-up with it. And because they have all this experience, they were able to make a custom GPT that did this first pass based on all of the things that they know about that particular market. And clients were blown away. Clients were like, wow, like you did this? Like how did you do this? Like this is something they show during their discovery call, or sometimes before the discovery call, when we just want to show you how we think. And so the AI has made that so much easier for them because it's not perfect, but it just sort of encapsulates all of their thinking into something that could be generated in 15 to 20 minutes rather than one full human day of work. Providing examples, and if for instance, if you're gonna like if you're gonna tell somebody that their landing page sucks and that's why they're not making any sales, give them a snapshot of a new one. Just bring it to your favorite LLM and say, hey, make this page better, and here's the 5 rules that I have for landing pages. Do that, and it will make you an image that's really pretty freaking good. I mean, again, not perfect, but you can show your thinking to your clients so much more easily with AI with really minimal human input if you do the initial input to explain the problem and provide context.
Yeah, that's such a good example because I heard from another I heard from another leader in the agency space that specializes in web design. He said that it's so much more impactful if we can create a prototype when we do our pitch to a customer. But that leader used to have to invest 150, 200 hours in building a website prototype, where now with AI, he can spin that up in a fraction of the time,
Yeah.
but still use that to convey the key ideas and their key differentiators on how they would build that website compared to
Yeah.
another.
Also, something that is really terrific in terms of sales, and this is a great thing to put into your into your proposals or to in your outreach, is to show that you understand the industry. So doing industry research and talking about trends, LLMs make that super freaking easy to really understand like what's the growth in the market, and it crushes your research time from say 5 hours to 20 minutes. And
Yeah.
that's huge because you have much more credible expertise after you've ingested that than you did before. And so, and if you're not doing that, and if everybody in your team does not have a paid paid GPT thing,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Come on.
Yeah. It's like if we're talking about the optimistic side of AI, like realistically, if you're in the agency space, it should be much quicker, much easier, less of an investment to create a really compelling pitch that shows that you understand your customer and you understand their industry, because there's so many tools that you can use to compile that
Yeah,
information.
and also, if you're in the paid media space and people give you access to their account, using like just pull down a bunch of data and ask Chat GPT for stuff that you would not have noticed, and it will come up with stuff for you for sure. Or pull down all of their ads. All of that stuff is super, super high impact because and it's pretty inexpensive for you. It does take some futzing around to get it right, but the impact that allows your that will allow your prospect to have the intimacy needed for a fully elastic relationship that is a great way to accelerate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Strong insights. Tim, it's always tough to say goodbye, but we're
Like, like, like
time and
you're putting
don't
me down like a dog.
I'm just saying, like, I wish we could hang out forever, but we're at time. I'm not seeing any other questions in the Q&A. With that said, if you are interested in exploring more about how Tim advises on revenue growth, I think we included a link to his LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to him directly. And if you're interested on technology and solutions on how to sell smarter and run a cleaner operation for your business, reach out to Parallax. So thank you, everybody. Any final words, Tim?
Buy Parallax. It's a super useful tool. I mean, it really gives you a granular look at your operational health in a way that no other tool that I can think of does.
Thanks, Tim.
You're
All
welcome.
right. Thanks, everybody, for spending some time with us. Hopefully, see you on the next webinar. Appreciate it.